Console wars are really starting to heat up, not in the traditional sense of, both companies, Microsoft and Sony, trying to put out better products than one another. No. This is a different type of war. One where the victor will be determined by who hits the bottom first, because we have Sony making some absolutely absurd meddling decisions, and then we have Microsoft, well, they're just out there trying to take the Xbox brand behind the old shed and giving it the old Yeller treatment. But first, we're going to talk about Sony. We talked about the Ghost of Tsushima PC port and Sony's meddling over the top of it, but don't worry guys, the single player won't require a PSN account just for the multiplayer stuff, because we got this new overlay that's going to be there. It's going to be great. We know that we got caught with our hand in the cookie jar over the Helldivers 2 stuff, but this is a totally different beast, and I don't know why anybody would be complaining about it to begin with, because at least we're honest about it from the beginning. Until you realize that the Ghost of Tsushima PC port has been delisted in nearly 200 countries and territories without PSN access. So even if you could purchase the PC port on Steam, okay, where a lot of people have wanted to have this game for a very long time. They might not have even wanted to play the Legends expansion, okay? They didn't want to do any of that multiplayer stuff, because guess what? There's some people that like to play video games. They like to play the single player aspect of stuff. Back when I was a bigger gamer, back when Call of Duty wasn't as insufferable as it is now, so we're looking back nearly 2 decades at this point in time, I would always play the campaign before I hopped on the multiplayer, okay? There was a point in time where people actually looked forward to the campaigns in Call of Duty. I'm talking about, Call of Duty 2, Big Red 1, that was fantastic. Call of Duty 3, I don't remember much of that, but then of course you had the Modern Warfare trilogy where, a lot of revolutionary gameplay was introduced in those campaigns. Black Ops 1 and 2, 3 to a lesser extent, I mean, those were great. Ghosts, less said about that the better, but at least they put some effort into that stuff, and you would play, and as a lot of people did, they would play the multiplayer and stuff like that, but people would actually look forward to the campaign. That would be a big selling feature, and then especially with the Souls-like games, Ghost of Tsushima being chief among those, people wanted to actually play the game and maybe dabble in the multiplayer afterwards. Now there's 200 countries that are out there that aren't even going to get the opportunity to do that. I don't know how they square this circle this time around. Mirroring Helldivers 2, continued regional delisting woes, which to be honest, I haven't seen any updates, so I don't even know if Helldivers 2 is available in a lot of those countries where had the PSN account linking occurred, the game would have been effectively banned in these same countries. I haven't seen them being put back online. I don't know, that it could be the case where everything got reversed and everything's all hunky-dory now, but last time that I checked, still not available in a bunch of countries. But yes, the upcoming PC port of Sucker Punch's 2020 historical samurai slice 'em up Ghost of Tsushima has been removed from sale on Steam and other PC storefronts in nearly 200 countries and territories that are not served by Sony's PlayStation Network. The previous Sony PC ports like God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spooderman, The Last of Us, like all of those, everything that has a single player and a multiplayer component to it, never needed a PSN account before, but now all of a sudden, now they decided that this is the avenue that we need to go now that our console sales are starting to drop off precipitously, and that we understand that the PC market day and date release with PC would also be beneficial to the growth of our industry, because the ballooning budgets had made it to a point where we would basically have to get about a 50% adoption rate with console gamers in order to just simply turn a profit on our games. Like Spider-Man 2, if you didn't know, was $360 million. They didn't make back their budget. It would have been nearly impossible to do as such, given the fact that it's a Sony PlayStation 5 exclusive. I don't think 1 in 3 PS5 owners were going to be picking up Spider-Man 2, not with those reviews out there. That was never going to happen. But no, Sony, being a dumb company, a greedy company, are trying to force their console crap on the PC market that has a lot of former console players on it that decided to leave that ecosystem because of all of the restrictive practices that Sony, that Microsoft, that stupid Nintendo has for the freedom of PC. Now Sony, seeing that market that's over there, going, you know what, we could probably backdoor some of our old censorious policies on there, and we'll just see. We can make it happen. But they're figuring it out quick. Oh yeah, no, that doesn't work this way around. But yes, after a delayed rollout due to Helldivers 2 initial server woes, yeah, it wasn't the case beforehand. They didn't say when everybody was buying the game day one, like, yeah, there were server problems to begin with, but there was no indication that a PSN account was going to be necessary at the time. Apparently the CEO of Arrowhead Studios, the guys who created Helldivers 2, had a lot of warning, but they didn't tell their user base that a PSN account was going to be necessary to continue online play, so that's just more revisionist history. Yeah, an attempt by the publisher to institute a mandatory sign-in requirement was met with massive backlash, leading the company to stand down. Remember how PlayStation put out the tweet, okay? They put out the tweet, it was about, just about a week ago at this point in time. We're learning how to deal with the PC community. Just give us some time. Well, we gave you some time, and it turns out you aren't actually learning. You got caught red-handed trying to do exactly what you wanted to do. Now you're just simply finding another avenue. One aspect of the situation Sony did not seem to anticipate was that Steam, and thus Helldivers 2 on PC, were available in more countries than PSN. That, or they didn't care, with players in non-PSN supported regions potentially getting locked out of the game they had paid for and had been playing. Even after Sony reversed its decision, Helldivers 2 has remained unavailable for purchase in those areas. Okay, Arrowhead CEO Johan Pilsted has said that he's pushing for this to be reversed, but a few new countries were actually added to the restricted list on Steam after his remarks. Unbelievable. Brings us to Ghost of Tsushima. Cinematic story-driven single-player campaign is its primary draw. Exactly. Post-launch co-op multiplayer mode Legends seems to be the sticking point with Tsushima's delisting, while a base game did not require a PSN sign-in, this multiplayer mode will. Which, if it's going to be attached to the game with a PC port, that ostensibly makes it that you're going to need a PSN account in order to play the single-player mode anyway. So it's a distinction without a difference. Steam database shows that the same purchase restrictions as Helldivers 2 were added to Tsushima on May 10th. Oh, so after they made the announcement, because wasn't it on the 6th where they said that they were going to be reversing course on Helldivers 2. Oh wait, it was. So yeah, they didn't learn anything. On May 10th, it remains unclear whether this is being driven by Sony, Valve, or both. It's by Sony, because they need third-party access, and Valve has access in other countries. Sony doesn't. Therefore, they want access to all of their users. They can't get access in some countries, so they just aren't going to sell it to them. Each company has an incentive to avoid refunds and disgruntled players. Indeed, some players in affected regions have reported receiving refunds for Tsushima's pre-orders without even asking for them. Yeah, because if Valve can't deliver a product to you, they're not going to take your money. This is going to lead to, okay, if Sony keeps on trying to pull this stuff, this is going to lead to Valve removing Sony from the platform. Because even though this isn't a Steam problem, they can't have these chargebacks. This ends up reflecting poorly on Valve, so I could see a day, if Sony continues to try to push this stuff, where they get delisted off of the PC store, and I don't know, man, maybe try to get in good with Xbox, maybe try to get in good with Microsoft, because apparently, okay, because we've heard a lot of accolades for a bunch of Sony single-player stuff, like, oh my god, how stunning and brave was the Spider-Man Tooth stuff, where you had the side mission where you could play as a deaf black girl, and you could spray paint over stuff, and you had the muffled sounds. It was so fantastic, and it got all the writing accolades. Maybe Sony will start selling their stuff on the Windows Store. Who knows? It's a wacky time, and neither of these companies can really get their own head out of their asses. So on the Microsoft side of things, I mean, like this right here, this is just high comedy, okay? After closing the development studios behind the highly acclaimed Hi-Fi Rush and reportedly canceling sequel, yes, Xbox boss declares we need smaller games that give us prestige and awards. I mean, you shut down Tango Gameworks that created Hi-Fi Rush, which everybody who played it had good things to say about it. It didn't cost a lot of money. You take a look at the other games that Tango Gameworks created, and they were lower budget titles that won awards. So what exactly do you want? Okay, what do you want? You're trying to streamline your industry by closing studios. Okay, I can understand where you're just trying to focus on your bigger IPs, but then you take a look at what Xbox has for their IPs right now. None of them are in very good shape. You just keep on buying more studios. You just keep on buying more intellectual properties in order to make it look like you guys have a healthy business going on over there. But in reality, you bought Call of Duty. You're going to be turning a lot of these former studios into support studios, kind of like what Activision did when they gutted Infinity Ward, created Sledgehammer Studios, and now they have, what, 3 or 4 different studios constantly working on new iterations year after year of Call of Duty. And then when it comes to Bethesda, now you're going to have all of these disparate companies too, all fold in order to help with big Bethesda, in order to make Elder Scrolls 6, Fallout 5, try to do something with Starfield. But then, okay, if that's your streamlining approach, then you also want to have smaller games that get acclaim, that get prestige, that get awards, that appeal to the indie crowd that's out there, because that's the only growing aspect of video games right now. Because, in my opinion, categorizing mobile games in with the rest of this dumpster fire isn't necessarily fair. That's like grabbing in graphic novels and manga and saying, hey, look at the comic book industry is doing just fine right now. It's not a fair comparison to make. Mobile games have a completely different audience than the PC gamer does. A Nintendo Switch appeals to a different market than somebody who's looking at getting a brand new Stream Deck. These companies, man, the people who are making these decisions don't understand their audience because they're so disconnected. It's a panel full of boomers, a bunch of disassociated numbers guys, pencil pushers that are out there. I think that when Microsoft bought Activision, they got the license to Mario. This is how out of touch these people are. But to have the audacity to close down studios that were working on smaller, highly acclaimed titles and then say, oh yeah, we need more studios, we need more developers working on smaller budget, highly acclaimed titles. This is why everybody's looking at Xbox right now going, what are you even doing? And an absolutely stunning display of corporate head assery. Just a day after shuttering a number of smaller game studios under their Bethesda banner, the head of Xbox Game Studios, Matt Booty, has reportedly declared that Microsoft Gaming Division is now seeking to turn its development attention towards smaller games that give us prestige and awards. Yeah, that's the expression on the face of the people that were down there. It's like, are you serious? Are you serious? As reported on The Verge's Ash Parish, based on information shared with her by an attendee, Bodie delivered the comments during a town hall meeting with the division's numerous employees held on May 8th. Further, as relayed by Bloomberg's Jason Schreier on behalf of the sources, well, Booty did specifically praise the Tango Gameworks Hi-Fi Rush, a title which fit his forward-looking criteria to a T. He did not offer any additional information as to why Microsoft chose to shutter its development studio, especially given their apparent desire for the exact results that they've historically delivered prior to the aforementioned rhythm action game. The Shinji Mikami-founded studio was also responsible for developing, yes, The Evil Within 1 and 2 and Ghostwire Tokyo, another game that was a mid-budget release that did extremely well, selling 4 million, 5 million copies. Like, it was really well regarded. However, speaking to the overall studio closures, Bodie reportedly did claim that they were done in order to allocate more resources to supposedly understaffed divisions, which he described as being spread thin like peanut butter on bread. Yes, exactly. Trying to help out your bigger budget IPs, but then at the same time trying to create smaller, more niche games that appeal to a broader audience. It's like, how are these people in charge of anything creative when they can't even deal with the empirical? So yeah, I don't know which company is dumber at this point in time. Sony for their absolutely destructive policies, or Xbox for just trying their damnedest to infuriate any of their remaining audience. It's kind of a wild time in gaming right now. And given the fact that we're not even halfway through the year, looking at the release schedule of what's left to come out, yeah, this isn't going to be the last time we hear about cuts and closures. It's only going to get worse from here. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.